first American oil workers came to Saudi Arabia. King Ibn Saud needed money, and Standard Oil of California paid $1 million plus royalties for a 60-year concession. In 1938, they struck oil, lots of it. And where they found oil, they built a town, Dhahran. Today, American oil workers live in an American community in the middle of the Arabian desert. They work for Aramco, the Arabian-American oil company. Originally American-owned, the Saudi government has now bought a controlling interest in Aramco. But Americans still occupy a large number of key positions. The oil workers and their families are only a small portion of the 35,000 Americans living in Saudi Arabia. The Americans are the largest Western presence here. They represent what both sides consider a special relationship. A relationship born out of a mutual need. Although we may not like it, we need their oil. The Saudis keep their wealth mostly in American dollars. And they need our military support. But for a relationship which is supposed to be special, there have been a lot of problems, misunderstandings.
We do not feel that our aspiration, our expectation from this special relationship has been achieved at all. The image of an Arab, and this personally I'm quite disappointed with it. We have evolved from the Hollywood image of the great sheik to the image where the Arab is now almost the villain. Why isn't there a single book on the bestseller list that would portray the Arab side? Just to take the crash of '79, Trocadero, Black Sunday, the two books on the list right now, Shibumi and War and Remembrance. I'm glad we are not referred to as yet by these books as the enemy. We just want to be understood, to reach the American public, not for their love, their respect and understanding of the problems we are facing.
What has upset the Saudis most of all was the Camp David negotiations, the American effort to get an Israeli-Egyptian agreement, which other Arabs view as a sellout of Palestinians, a betrayal of vital Arab interests, including Jerusalem, and therefore not a real peace.
There is a real split now in the Arab world, not caused by the Arab countries or the reaction to Egypt, but to the fact that Egypt signed a separate peace treaty with Israel, an issue that President Sadat had constantly promised that would never happen under any circumstances.
Where do you see the negotiations going now in the West Bank? Is there any hope for them?
Well, frankly, we see no hope, and basically not because of the attitude of the United States, but basically because of the attitude of Israel.
The result is that the Middle East problem facing the United States is no longer two-sided, Arab versus Israel, but three-sided, Israel, Egypt, and the other Arab states, above all, Saudi Arabia. They are Egyptians praying in Cairo. Like Muslims everywhere, they bow towards Mecca, towards Saudi Arabia. But when it comes to Middle East politics, Egypt has refused to bow before the demands of its fellow Arabs. is the religious center of Islam, Egypt considers itself the cultural and political capital. Egypt is everything Saudi Arabia is not. It is poor, with little oil, and too many people. 40 million Egyptians crowded along the banks of the Nile. Every year, 1 million new mouths to feed, and not enough food to do it. 40% of the population is under the age of 15, a demographic time bomb ticking away. The poverty, Egypt's bleak future, was a major reason for President Sadat's dramatic decision to go to Israel to seek peace. He went without consulting Saudi Arabia or other Arab countries. Sadat is viewed as a hero in the United States and Israel, but in the Arab world, Anwar Sadat is an outcast, a traitor. During the Camp David negotiations, both Sadat and the United States assumed that some of the more moderate Arab countries, particularly Saudi Arabia, would support the agreement as a first step towards an overall settlement. That was a serious miscalculation. James Akins is former ambassador to Saudi Arabia.
It was a classic case of self-deception. The Saudis had made their position perfectly clear at the time of Camp David, before the separate peace agreement was signed. Camp David, of course, took them somewhat by surprise. Camp David agreement was signed. The Saudis said, if they sign the agreement, we hope that they won't, but if they do, we will cut off economic aid to Egypt. We have to. This is an Arab position. Vital Arab interests are at stake. We didn't believe this as a government. The Egyptians didn't believe it, and we reinforced our misconceptions about the area. There's no excuse for it. It was because the truth was so unpleasant, and we chose not to believe the truth. This is not the first time this has happened in our foreign policy.
And so the Arab world was divided by Camp David. Saudi Arabia had to reassess its priorities, that it could not be a moderate on the burning issue of the Middle East, the Palestinians. This is the main council chamber of the Arab League, the heart of Arab political unity. Normally, 21 nations plus the PLO are represented here, spanning the Arab world from Morocco to Iraq. But now, almost all of them have gone, pulled out, left town. They're off to Tunisia to set up a new headquarters. The council chamber is empty now. Anwar Sadat is very much alone.
It is not really punishment or isolation. It is a reaction, really, to what President Sadat has done. Plus the fact that even with this end result, you find that the collective will of the Arab countries was towards peace.
Egypt desperately needs to modernize its army and air force, which is now dependent on old Russian equipment. Saudi Arabia agreed to purchase for Egypt 50 American F-5 fighters at a cost of $500 million. Now the Saudis have pulled out of the deal. Egypt is going to buy F-4 Phantoms. They will be paid for by some of the $1.5 billion promised to Egypt in American military aid by the Camp David Agreement. And that's only part of the bill. Each year, $1 billion of American non-military aid is going to Egypt. It is our largest single aid program in the world. Money for housing, power plants, to modernize Cairo's roads, sewers, public transportation, telephone service, all hopelessly overburdened by the mushrooming population. President President Sadat wants even more. He has called for an aid program of $18 billion over 5 years, most of it to come from the United States. Money to keep Egyptians tolerably contented, to keep them fed, to keep Sadat in power. For example, take bread, the basis of life in a country like Egypt. This bread, in fact, is called eshbeladi, a simple loaf. It means life, and it costs just 1 American cent apiece. 2 years ago, when President Sadat tried to remove subsidies and raise food prices, there was rioting here in the streets of Cairo. Sadat's not about to try that again. So the people continue to get cheap food, but it costs the government $1.5 billion a year. And that's money which more and more is going to have to come from the American government. Sadat took a tremendous gamble when he launched his peace initiative with Israel. It's not yet known whether he will succeed. What is certain is the American commitment to Sadat. We will have to supply him with the weapons and the money to keep him in power. As in Iran, the United States is staking a lot on one man. Some people have questioned that, warning that the United States may become too close to Sadat. Egypt may become too big a political and financial liability. Herman Iles is former American ambassador to Egypt, a key participant in the Egyptian-Israeli negotiations.
For there to be peace in the Middle East, it depends upon a moderate Egypt. And a moderate Egypt depends upon a moderate Egyptian leader. And I think President Sadat is that. He has shown it. He has shown great patience over the years. He has shown great flexibility. And while he has been challenged by other leaders, I believe it is absolutely essential that we continue to support him closely.
So today, the United States is caught in a three-sided dispute between Israel, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. And the new element in that dispute is oil.
If you think in the West that without solving the Palestinian problem, there will be no oil interruption in the supply point, then you are mistaken. Because you cannot separate these issues together. Even if Saudi Arabia does not want to use oil as a weapon, you are intelligent enough to know that there is a strong link.
Saudi Arabia claims it won't use the oil weapon against the West, but it hints that it might use oil as an enticement for a more pro-Arab policy from the United States. If the United States were to put pressure on Israel to get a settlement acceptable to the Arab nations on the West Bank and East Jerusalem, would Saudi Arabia respond by increasing its oil production?
I think I would go so far as to say that Saudi Arabia would pay any price to achieve peace based on justice and equity. Peace that achieves for the Palestinians their rights of self-determination and the homeland, and brings stability and security. We see in this a benefit to us, a benefit to the whole region and to the people of the region.
One thing is certain. Oil is a weapon, whether used consciously or not. Every time OPEC raises its price, a producer lowers production, or a terrorist blows up a pipeline. It is a fact we cannot ignore in our foreign policy. And here at home, our frustration is rising.
No, that's not accurate. I don't know, go fix it. You're kidding me. It'll take 10 gallons.
What was once a a distant foreign policy issue has become a domestic issue, which directly affects each of us every day. For us, that is the most painful change. And with the frustration, which on occasion this summer turned violent, come questions. What can we do about our dependence on oil so far away, here under the sands of the Arabian Peninsula? Here are these oil installations at work, built by Americans, still run largely under American supervision, and which, in the case of war, would have to be defended by the United States. So an American might ask himself, why doesn't the United States simply help itself to some more oil? Or to put it bluntly, why don't we take it?